And, at the moment, in the Middle East, you have what is called the axis of resistance, which is Hezbollah and Lebanon, Iran, Syria. And would you argue that they are actually doing a better job, or that they are more potent and effective at combating imperialism, Zionism, and American hegemony than the vast majority of Arab countries? Where do they fit into this anti-imperialist equation?
Yeah, well, I think the axis of resistance, it's been very effective in defending Syria, defending the Syrian government from being overthrown.
Yeah.
And I mean, especially when you look at it in comparison to the other Arab countries, I mean, the other Arab countries, despite whatever occasional, rhetoric they might talk about. I mean, I think most of them have given up the rhetoric around Palestine, but if they ever do give some kind of rhetoric, it is just rhetoric. They no longer have any interest in defending the Arab world. These are, pro-U.S. puppet, regimes controlled by the international oil companies, the fossil fuel companies, IMF, these international banking organizations and oil companies, and there's no, it's not even really a comparison, but the axis of resistance, certainly. I think, though, when it comes to the axis of resistance, there are contradictions, and I don't think the axis of resistance is the end-all, be-all, because when you look at the situation of Iraq, I would argue that the axis of resistance in the sense of Iran and the Shia political Shia militias and movements are actually quite negative, and they actually worked with the United States in the de-Baathification, the destruction of socialism in Iraq. They were instrumental for the United States in basically fomenting the sectarian division in Iraq following 2003. People forget, the death squads. Around me even mentioning this, death squads in Iraq, people are starting to remember who were the death squads in Iraq. These were militias such as the Badr organization and others that are now anti-U.S., but at the time, and they're basically Khomeiniist, Shia fundamentalist political organizations. At the time, these groups functioned as death squads being overseen by U.S. forces, carrying out mass murders of Iraqi people. So it is kind of, when you look at it, like the history of these Shia militias in Iraq, it's kind of surprising, because wait a minute, now they're opposed to the U.S. in Iraq and they're supporting Syria against the U.S. It's kind of a weird situation. So just going back to the axis of resistance, I think they've certainly done a lot to oppose the overthrow of Syria, but there's a lot of contradictions there. I don't think they're the end-all, be-all. I think that there will need to be eventually, a new political movement to bring about pan-Arabism and the anti-imperialist struggle and socialism.
But I mean, if you look at pan-Arabism, it is in its very essence, it's fundamentally secular, right? I mean, it's not something that's based on religious lines, but more on the fact that we have a common language, a common history, common geography, common borders, etc. And I think. Syria is really a perfect example of that, because you have quite an astounding mosaic of so many religious and ethnic groups. And I think it's like you mentioned at the beginning of the conversation, that the United States, the West, have always made sure to take advantage of these sectarian lines on purpose to, to sow dissent between groups and minorities. And it's really something that I wish people would wake up to, because, without unity, without unison, they're going to keep dividing and conquering us.